Hi ladies, here I am. I'm going to be working on your June layout and I've got all the background paper on. I want to quickly just go over how to put these circles on because it can be pretty tricky. One of my good friends, Colleen, was helping me with these layouts, and when I was watching her, she actually glued the ring down first, the largest one, which is going to be 18 on our die cut that we're going to be doing. And then once she glued that down, she started to place the circles one by one in the pattern that the sketch calls for. So that's what you guys should do too. Don't try to put the smaller 2.5-inch circles on until you have that 1/4-inch ring on. Number 18. Okay, so let's get these pictures covered up so that when we do the gilding polish and the paint, we don't make a mess. And I'll cover this one up in just a second. I'm gonna use the circle template again. This is template 39, one of my favorites. And I like the idea of using the circle template since we use the circles here. So I'm gonna put a little down here and there and then up in the right corner. So let's start right here. We're gonna be using the chocolate bronze gilding polish. So I've got that out and I've got it ready. Mine is super full because I just emptied one of them, my old one, into that. So they don't normally come that full. That's just kind of how mine looks. All right, a little bit of gilding polish there. Then I'm gonna turn the template, load it up again. I'm gonna do the same thing. Try to hold that template down. It's very sticky. And that is good. And it looks a little, I want a little bit more. So I'm just gonna lay this back down here and add one little more, just add a little bit more on this circle. It's getting late here. All right, perfect. So then we're gonna turn it this way on our right-hand side. Be careful. Make sure you don't have it upside down or anything like that. Load up my sponge and then do a few random spots. Perfect. I've got my splatter shield up already too. So we're gonna do the paint while I have this out. So make sure you've got your scrap piece of paper if you've already got your mats on there like I do. And this one here, I'm just gonna fold in half so that I'm covering up a little bit less of the page. Okay, like that, that looks good. I've got the white paint out. And look at mine is getting very empty because I use this stuff a ton. So a nice dollop of paint we're gonna do right over here on our right-hand side. That's perfect. Another dollop of paint. And then I'm gonna let it spray this way. Love that. Okay, that one is good. So let's set that to the side and we'll start again with our leftover layout. Okay, here's our leftover layout. I really love these blueprints because every single photo on the original and on the blueprint page is exactly the same. So it makes for a very quick way to do your sketches. So template down, load up your sponge like we've been doing for the last 5 months. Do a little bit random. Okay, there is that. That looks great. I think I'm just gonna do a little bit off the page on this side, just to give it a little bit of weight down at the bottom. Put a piece of scrap paper in there. Template. Load up your sponge. All right, that's great. Perfect. Now we're gonna go and do the paint. And once we get that, we'll be all set. Cover up your mats. Just gonna cover up this side a little bit. And this one, so I don't make too much of a mess on there because I just want to get it right in here. I'm not going to do anything on the left-hand side. I'm only going to do it right here. I'm going to load up my paint, my splatter brush from Tim Holtz, and give it a nice good fling. Perfect. Okay, ladies, that's going to be it for June's background paper. We are all set. Hi, ladies. We're going to work on our June flowers today. I've got one of each one of the pieces it takes to complete a whole flower and the foliage that's here. So things that you're going to need out is your chalk. You're going to need Q-tips, cotton balls, a toothpick, your white paint, your sunburst glitter glue, and adhesive, and your zig writer, okay? So let's always start when we're gonna use chalk or paint or glitter glue and a zig writer, we're gonna start with the doodling first so that we don't ruin our marker. So let's start with the actual flower, and we're gonna do the biggest piece first. The biggest points, we're going to make individual petals. So keep turning that and only doing the biggest points. A lot of this will not be seen because we're gonna layer it, but I want that individual look of numerous petals on this flower. And then we'll go back and do the small ones in between. And just something quick for these, because like I said, a lot of it is gonna get covered. You're only gonna see really the edges. And then our next, the medium size one, we're gonna do the same thing. Find the biggest point and only draw those petals first. Colleen is in the background cooking us chicken, so if you hear that going on, that is what it is. I'm still up north while we're doing these videos. All right, so we've got our flowers there, and now we're gonna do our inside smaller petal. There we go. Normally it's Baxter I have in the background making all kinds of noise. And then on this one here, we're gonna go up from the center and give it a little bit of veining. Just something real quick. All right, and then this piece is eventually gonna line up and sit right on top like that. And then we have these 3 individual petals that we're gonna do. So you're really gonna see almost all of this except for the center here where it's that thin bar. And we're gonna do those inside veins. And I'm gonna go back and do my dotting and dashing when it's all together, so I don't have to do as much as individually because you know where it's gonna be seen. Okay. So that looks pretty good for this flower here. So now let's go ahead and take our adhesive. Only put adhesive like in the middle of this because I'm gonna flip up and kind of bend some of the petals and it lines right up. So just turn it until these larger points line up. So there we go. And then I'm just gonna do a little bit of finagling. I like to bend up the edges, and you could wait until this one is glitter glued and stuff, but sometimes I forget. So I'm gonna put a little adhesive where the little bar is and put these on here, little individual petals, just like that. Perfect. So last thing we need for this is the center. So let's draw the outside and then heavy dotting. We're gonna go back with the big side, put a lot more in. There we go. And we can glue that in the center. All right, let's go ahead and do the rest of our dotting for this one. I did a lot close to the center of it and then a little bit on the outer edges. Remember, if you have a hard time making it look random, that you keep skipping around on the flower, because if you don't, sometimes it looks too similar. It's not a random pattern. So skip around if you have a hard time making things look random. It'll help. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's do some bigger dots. Building out from the center, and then some of the edges. All right, that looks pretty good to me. And we're gonna do all of our doodling first, and then we will go back and do the chalk. So we're gonna outline the outer edges of this, do a heavy line on one side, just like that. Do your dotting. We're gonna keep those dots where you put that heavy line on the one side. Big ones. All right. You're not really going to see much of the stem on this, but I always carry my design through, so just add a little bit of a black line. So that's it for this one. And then we've got the other vine. And I went around and I just rounded the tops of most of these. A little black round edge. So something fairly simple. I went up through the stems. And then I did a little bit of veining inside next to the stem. Okay, so it looks pretty good for the lines, and now let's go ahead and do some of the doodling. So where we did that veining, that's where I started on mine, and then a couple on the edges. So heavy dotting. And we'll go back with the fat end, just get them kind of all dotted and done. All right, flip your zig writer over, do it with the fat side, sticking primarily to one side of the leaf. And all you're doing is giving it some definition and some highlighting. All right, perfect. So now we're gonna go back with the chalk. I'm just gonna put it on a new paper. All right, so with the chalk, make sure you've got your cotton balls and Q-tips. I've got a few out here. I'm gonna start with the center. I normally always do, and I used a brown for the center, just kind of heavy and all over it, and then soften it up with your Q-tip, just brushing it lightly. And then I went in with a black, and wherever I did that little bit of veining close to the center, I did black, just like that. And then we're gonna come back with something that looks orange, your closest orange, your brightest yellow. I'm gonna do a little bit in there. All these layers give it more definition, makes it look more dimensional, so that I'm going through and I'm doing a little bit of the edges. And I also, on the other side, used my brightest yellow that I had, and I kind of used that along the edge, the opposite side of the orange there. And I'm going to do a couple of the tips too. And then brush that all off. Soften it right up. All right, perfect. Now I went, and the reason why I made those petals, those 3 of them individually, so I could do what I'm doing right now and bend up the edges so that it looks more dimensional, okay? So that looks good. It gives that flower some movement. We're gonna set that aside, and I'm gonna start on the vine. I'm going to take my brown and I'm just going to go right up the center of it, right where the stem would be. I'm going to make that brown. That's all I used on this one this time, was just a little bit of brown right up through the center of the stem and through some of the petals. And then I soften that one up with my cotton ball, set it aside. And all it does is give it some definition and different colors so it doesn't look as flat as paper does. So last but not least, I'm going to take green, a pretty dark one. I'm going to do the left-hand side of each one of the leaves, just like that. And then I'm going to come back with a black one. Get a little black. I'm going to do it on the opposite side, just a little bit, and then the tip. And then soften it up with your cotton ball. Perfect. All right, let's get a new sheet of paper, glue these down, and we'll do the white paint and the glitter glue. These were a pretty simple flower. And just tuck that right in there. Get your leaf. Oh, I believe I'm missing a piece. Okay, so we've got this flower and the foliage, and last but not least are these little guys. So let's go over that together and then we'll come back to our whole flower. I'm not sure how I missed this guy. Like I've been doing, I'm putting black on the stems. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna cover up that lower leaf. We're gonna build it up onto the actual circle flower there. Cover the little tip in black. Okay. Perfect. Let me just move that so you can see it a little bit better. I'm not sure what I got, a little piece of fuzzy on the end. There we go. So now I'm going to draw my lines with my Zig Writer, and I did some veining up to the center, kind of in the shape of that circle, and dotting. Just close to the bottom of it on this one. Larger dots, using the same technique, close to the bottom, and then coming up on the sides. So that's it for this one. And I know a lot of times you guys ask me what kind of flowers these are. No flower on this one. This was one that I just kind of put together and made the shape of. So I have no idea. So we're going to use the brighter orange on the lower section and then just brush that off. We're going to come back with black to blend it in a little bit. And that's going to be it for these guys. All right, so let's go back to the last flower we were working on. We'll add this in so you can kind of see an assembled one. I love the yellow, nice and bright for the summer. Okay, so with that all together, we're gonna go, and I like to do the white paint first, so I've got my white paint out. And I'm going to do real heavy with my toothpick where it's heavy on the black. And then build out from the centers where we put the veining and a lot of that black chalk. So don't be afraid to put lots of little tiny dots. Gives it a lot of dimension. So that looks pretty good there. I did put a little bit on the brighter green leaves, just on that one side where we put the brighter green. Perfect. And then also these little yellow guys. I did a little thing at the bottom, just a little bit of white, like a V is kind of what I was trying to make. But, you know, I got a toothpick here, so whatever shape it takes on, I'm okay with. So that's good. And then small dots on the end that we covered in black. Now, if I was doing this at home, I would let my white paint dry before, and look at my white paint. I'm gonna need another one. I'm almost out of it. I use it way too much. I like to highlight stuff. Okay, so that looks good. We're gonna grab our sunset, or sunburst glitter glue, not sunset. If you get sunset, it's like an orange. You don't want that. And if you're at home, let your white paint dry, but I'm not. So if you have, we're gonna do real heavy. I'm putting a lot of glitter real close to where that paint was and around the darker orange yellow. And then I did some of the ends on the flower. It doesn't have to be every single one, but probably 3/4 of the ends. Put yellow on, just a little bit. Put it on heavy, but not all over the flower, just on the tips. Okay, that looks good. And then we're just gonna do this little guy, real heavy where that white paint is and all that black. And that's it, ladies. We're gonna let it dry, and you'll see the finished pages.